Welcome to The Big Picture. I'm Phil Arno. And I'd like to welcome my guest now, Stefan Mychajliw, who's here to talk about everything Erie County budget and politics and
not
elections.
Not looking good on the budget angle.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. And unfortunately, a lot of it is not good right now with everything that we've been going through, the coronavirus and the budget and the state and the federal. And my God, I don't know, that's all we've been talking about, but it just never ends.
Yeah, and with the Erie County budget, Phil, our largest source of revenue is sales tax revenue. A lot of people think it's property taxes and other aid from other governments, but no, sales tax revenue is our largest source of revenue. And when people are not going to restaurants like they used to, hotels are closed, sporting events are not taking place, summer festivals are not there, that's revenue that Erie County is never getting back. It's gone. So I have projected my office about a $206 million deficit. The Erie County executive says it's anywhere between $170 million and as high as $220 million. So we can't stick our head in the sand. We've got to deal with it head on. And what's very difficult about the Erie County budget is, though, even though it's upward of $1 billion, we only control about $150 to $160 million of that. All the rest is mandated social services from New York State. So the $150 or $160 million or so we spend on libraries, parks, sheriff's road patrol, fixing our roads. So once that money's gone, it's gone forever. It's never coming back. And so we've got some very difficult decisions to make within the walls of Erie County government.
Well, you know, no matter how you slice it, no matter what figure you go by, that's a big deficit. And I'm sure the people sitting at home are probably thinking, well, you know, maybe the federal government will come in or the state government will make some allowances. How, in the practical world, will we be able to go forward if the money's not there? I mean, if you're sitting at home and you're doing your books, you know, for your personal accounts, or I'm doing my books, for, you know, trying to balance my checkbook, I have to come up with money to pay my bills. When a government has to do that, it really should be the same thing, but sometimes the rules change.
That's correct. And with Erie County, by law, we have to have a balanced budget. We have to have a balanced budget. So there is some hope, and Senator Schumer has said that Erie County is going to get $83 million in federal aid, but we don't know. Right now, the federal aid for Erie County in the next stimulus bill is zero. So we have to go under the assumption that we're not getting federal aid, even though it's more than likely it's going to happen. But the county executive himself had said, even if we got $83 million, it's still not going to cover the whole. And so the good news within Erie County government is that we do have a very healthy surplus. We have what's called the rainy day fund. And it's a monsoon right now. Mm-hmm. Wow. So we can dip into that for a one-time loss of revenue, for a one-time use of fund balance. You know, we can cut positions. The one thing we cannot do, it is impossible to cut our way out of it. And I'm as fiscal conservative Republican as you get. And I'm the one saying we cannot cut our way out of this. So we've got some very difficult decisions to make if we don't get an influx of federal aid, and we have to decide what services are we going to provide, or none at all at the county level.
Well, to make it a little bit simple to understand, the deficit based on just where we are today, if nothing changes, it could be a couple $100 million for the year. And that rainy day fund that you mentioned, where we kind of stashed a little bit away just for emergencies like this, how much does that come to?
It's about $106 million that the county could dip into.
Even if we dipped into our emergency savings, we still wouldn't have as much as half of what we need to get by.
That's correct. And that's why I provided the legislature a 10-point deficit reduction plan. They have 10 options on the table that they can do. They can use the rainy day fund. And again, it's a monsoon right now. It's a bad storm. They can do that. They can cut vacant positions. These are positions that are fully funded in the budget, but right now, no one is in that chair. No one's in that job. So, you know, take my office, for example. I propose cutting my office budget by 13% by getting rid of 7 vacant positions. We were ready to hire people for these 7 positions, but we saw the storm coming. We decided not to. It's ideal to cut vacant positions because we don't have to pay, obviously, unemployment for that. The problem with cutting an actual job that someone's in mid-year is that the County of Erie has already paid that salary for 6 months. Then the legislature has to approve it. Then there's 3 weeks that the union has to get notice in order for that person to be laid off. Then we're self-insured, so we pay the unemployment. And then there's bumping rights, that if someone with a higher seniority, they go back into a different position. So there's the possibility of cutting vacant positions, or, which no one wants to see, cutting services.
You, unlike a lot of politicians, especially, maybe the top guy who is in Albany right now, I won't mention any names, but you have worked in the private sector.
Correct.
You actually were in this business. You were on this side of the camera. And so you know what it is to have a job and to kind of think like normal people, like you guys watching out there. So now that you're on the other side and you're working in government, from my point of view and from their point of view, why is it, let me rephrase that, how difficult would it be, and why hasn't it been done ever, that I know of, that common sense doesn't come into government when it comes to efficiency?
It's funny you say that, because with my private sector experience, we put in a lot of efficiencies and initiatives in my office. And to be honest, the most pushback that I got was from our own employees. For example, when someone paid an invoice before, let's say someone fixes a road, and the Department of Public Works, they get an invoice, a piece of paper that says, okay, you owe this company X amount of dollars. Well, before we put in what's called a computerized on-base system, that invoice can sit on someone's desk, and it did for months. No one would even know it's there. No one would know that we owed that money, and no one would know that that person's got to get paid on time. So I computerized the entire process, whereas we actually had Post-it notes on a wall of how many times and people touched or saw this system where they send a check, it comes to this department, and then I finally pay it. More than 60 people, 60 steps it would take just to pay a bill. So now with a computerized system, that bill goes right into the computer system. Everybody knows where it is, when it needs to be paid, and there's an accountability process. Now there's only 6 steps to do that. And since we can do that all on computer, all of my employees in the Office of Erie County Comptroller are working from home. And Phil, the data shows they're doing more work at home than they are coming to the Rath Building. And so even before COVID, I came up with the idea, and I actually met with private developers, of saying, we can do it smarter, we can work smarter. Why don't we sell the Rath Building? Why not? We can put that back on the tax rolls. It's right near the federal courthouse, city courthouse, family court, state supreme. Law firms would be chomping at the bit to take the Rath Building right downtown, put it on the tax rolls, and find smaller space for county government. So you're right, we need more private sector experience in the public sector, and it's hard. Like I said, my own people are the ones that fought me hardest on it. And now that we have the system in place, they love it, because it's more efficient, and they're doing their jobs, and they're doing more at home than coming into the Rath Building.
But, it just seems like it's counterintuitive that the people who make the rules are the ones that benefit from the rules, in the situations in government. For instance, and I'll give you another example and we can move on.
Sure.
But when somebody runs a department and they have a budget, and I've talked to many, many people in government, both here and in California, and the rules are the same in government pretty much no matter where you go. If somebody who runs a department and they have a budget for this year, and they can be more efficient in running that department, and they can actually spend less money. The guy who runs the department has to think to himself, if I come in under budget and have an excess, next year I'm not going to get as much money, because they're going to look at me and they're going to say, hey, you did a great job, you didn't spend that much money, we're going to give you less.
Right.
And so the people who run the departments, they don't have an incentive to be more efficient, because they think, well, next year I may need that money, so you know what, I better not cut the budget, because who knows what's going to happen. I'll just spend what they give me.
You're punishing efficiency.
Right.
And again, I can just speak from my own experience in my own office, the comptroller's office. We're doing more with less. Everybody at home, all of you are doing more with less, especially in this tough economy. So are we. And so when I had 7 vacant positions to fill, using the so-called, government, the status quo thinking, My thought process can be, I better fill these positions quick because they'll be gone in next year's budget. I'll never get them back again. I just don't think that way. And we did. We had people ready to fill those positions because our employees, they were doing a lot of work for taxpayers, and they were bearing the brunt and the workload of these 7 other people. But I could not, with a clear conscience, put people in those positions thinking, number one, I could do more with less. I am getting the job done with less, and then having to fire these people or lay them off once the economy crashed. So last year in my office, I returned about $500,000 back to the budget by not spending it, and I didn't care. And if I'm going to be punished for it in the future for doing more with less, fine, I'll wear that like a badge of honor. But more people should have the mindset of, I'm going to do more with less, I'm going to cut my budget, and not think I'm going to be punished for it. So I always take the high road, and I do that, and I always return money back to the county government.
Well, the taxpayers, you people should know how your money is spent. Whenever you approve a tax increase, think about these things, because, I once did a story with a drug enforcement task force. I'm not going to say what level it was on. It could have been city, county,
Sure.
federal, but it was at the last minute, for their budget. And these guys, we went out on a nighttime raid, if we will, and they were out on the street. And because it was the end of their year, they were out handing $100 bills out to informants because they had to get rid of that money because their budget was up. And if they didn't get rid of that money, they would come in under budget and they wouldn't have the same budget for the next year.
And that's why I think government officials and public servants should have the mindset that the money that they're spending, it belongs to someone. It came from someone. It came from someone's job. It came from someone's home. Someone working hard, a taxpayer, provided that money for government. And I try to have the mindset of when I have to spend government money, I'm always mindful of the person that's paying the bills. When it comes to even furniture in our office, we have a surplus warehouse in Cheektowaga where I tell employees, okay, before you buy a new chair, before you buy a new desk, go to the warehouse and see if we can take something that's used. We try to maximize that as much as possible. I even put in, we call it a supplier pay program. The credit card commercials, you use your credit card, you get cash back. Well, we actually created a program where a large vendor, very wealthy vendors or people that do a lot of business, they want to get paid right away. So we created basically a credit card system that if you wanted your money right away, there is a fee, 1.5%, and that they agree to. And so that I made taxpayers $275,000 last year just by paying our bills. And that's money I delivered back to the government. So you need private sector people in government who have the mindset of, this isn't money that I'm going to lose or use it or lose it. That's just the opposite mindset of what a public official should say. They should think these are taxpayer dollars. Someone is paying for this, and we should always be mindful of the person who's paying the bill whenever we spend money in government.
Well, we've got, I guess we're out of time for this segment. When we come back, I want to talk about, your suggestion that maybe employees can work out of their home. I want to talk about some ventilators that didn't exist that we spent a lot of money on, a decision to put infected people into retirement homes. There's a lot of things to talk about, a lot of serious issues. Very interesting conversation. Stay tuned because you're going to want to hear this. We'll be right back after this.